Hello, my name is Ivan Nokhrin, and I'm going to speak to you about how APIs help buildings learn. But first let's put ourselves in a context. We as human species, unlike fish, do experience and are aware of our environment. And if we think about our environment, uh, we should think about our environment as an artificial or built environment. According to some studies, we spend almost 90% of our time indoors. And we are really indoor species in that sense. According to UN, by 2050, 70% of the world's population will live in cities. And today already the majority of the population lives in the cities. And so we may conclude that the new population that is growing and has grown to add another 2.3 billion of people to our planet over the last 35 years. So the new population is living in the cities. And our human habitat is really urban environment. Almost 100 years ago, Buckminster Fuller formulated this problem. He said, there's something patently insane about all the typewriters sleeping with all the beautiful plumbing in the beautiful office buildings and all the people sleeping in the slums. And you would think that over the past 100 years, we have kind of ingested this understanding and made a certain change in our urban environment. But if you think about the future as it is today, the 2020s, we are still somewhat in the same situation. And when we talk about efficient use of space, it's not always the desirable use of space. So you see the comparison of 1 million people living in 2 square kilometers of slums area as compared to 1 million working people occupying 8 million square meters of office area in Helsinki. And 1 million square meters out of that 8 million is empty. So there's definitely something to do for us to optimize this situation. Cities all over the world are growing and adapting to the changing needs of people through the process of gentrification. When older population, or let's say previous population of certain districts, is being pushed away by the new development. And buildings are getting repurposed. Here's an example of Katajanokka prison in Helsinki that has been converted to a very well-known hotel. But repurposing the buildings is only one sort of trend that is happening. Our social models are changing very rapidly, and the change is accelerating. Modern technologies truly offer new experiences, and today having a smartphone really allows you to make your whole world your office. Yeah, you can work from almost anywhere. But the office buildings themselves have not changed so much. So they changed the way they look and feel, but the whole idea did not change so much. And if you think about the change that has been influencing the construction industry, there's even less change over 150 or even 200 years. There's not much change about how we construct new buildings. And so what we need to focus on is how we help buildings learn. In other words, how we help buildings adapt and change to accommodate our changing needs as people. And I chose the title of my presentation inspired by the work of Frank Duffy, um, which is called How Buildings Learn. It's a book that was written a few decades ago. And the idea that was expressed in the book is to look at buildings and look at our built environment, and try to analyze it in terms of these shearing layers. So there are 6 so-called S layers. And the distribution of these layers is based on the change cycle that happens to them, or on the lifespan. The longest lifespan is, of course, the land site that virtually never changes. Then comes the structure of the building. Then comes the skin, or let's say the facade, the front side of the building. And then comes the service layer, all the plumbing, insulation, ventilation, all the engineering equipment that is installed in the building. Then comes the space, how the walls are aligned and how the space is broken down into rooms and parcels and so on. And then comes stuff, which is furniture and all the different appliances that we bring in buildings to operate in them, to live in them, work, study, and so on and so forth. And so what is interesting for us in this approach is the service layer. In Frank Duffy's opinion, the service layer of buildings is usually designed to have a lifespan of a few decades. Yeah, so 20, 30, or 40 years. And this is the layer that is now being pressured and influenced and enabled by the emerging technologies. So if we take a look at the service layer today, we can postulate that it's become truly digital first. When we talk about the service layer in the building, we mean the energy supply to the building, the lighting controls, fire safety and alarms, video surveillance and monitoring, charging equipment that is used nowadays to charge electric vehicles, plumbing, water supply, HVAC, which stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, elevators, escalators, and other hoisting equipment, and access services. So if we think about how these different services come together in a building administration system, we can think about buildings as being programmables and having basically a programmable interface to the whole building. And in that sense, we can think about cities as a distributed mesh network of buildings that can communicate to each other, but they can also communicate to people using wearable devices or smartphones that are passing through the cities, and they communicate to the vehicles and the vertical flying drones, delivery drones. That is definitely a next obvious trend. And we may conclude that to learn faster and better and adapt in a more agile way to our changing needs, buildings need to embrace API-first technologies. And here we visualize how a real estate asset or property can really embrace the newly converging technologies, such as the blockchain technology or building information modeling technology or IoT technology, and how these technologies can be adapted by buildings to really help people engage in a more satisfying experience inside buildings. Thank you for information. You can find me on LinkedIn by this address or by this QR code. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, and see you later.